from the studios of RMI TV in the glorious city of Melbourne, this is the Sports Desk's Grand Final Footy Show. Your superstar hosts, Michael Sopel, Sam Menhennet, and James Worth.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Desk Grand Final live pre-game show. Good afternoon, I'm Sam. I'm joined by Michael and James. One of the biggest sporting days on the calendar. It is here. It is Geelong and Sydney back at the MCG for our first grand final here in 2 years. The buzz in Melbourne this week has been incredible and we've got a massive show lined up for you today. Thanks for tuning into the stream. We've, of course, got some highlights from our Sports Desk year on radio with all the AFL games and shenanigans we got up to there. Of course, we have our favourite grand final moments coming up. Going to preview the big dance, and we'll also have Elliot Coombe live from the MCG. Good afternoon to you, boys. How are you feeling before today's big dance?
Good afternoon, Sammy. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for tuning into this live stream. Absolutely massive show coming up, as you mentioned, Sam. We cannot wait. And it's great to be outside of the radio studios. This is what we look like in real life, by the way. And we're still not wearing any pants. No, it's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. It's one of my favourite weeks, as you guys mentioned. You know, a lot of narratives come out of this week, and particularly these two sides. Does Lance Buddy Franklin in red and white colours get a premiership, or is it Paddy Dangerfield, a man who's so loved in the competition? Does he finally get one? He's done everything in the game, Jimmy, but can he win a premiership? So many questions, and they'll all be answered later today.
It's a big one. It's probably the biggest we've had in a long, long time. Two teams who haven't won a premiership in respectively 10 and 11 years. Geelong coming off that 2011 grand final win against Collingwood, and Sydney coming off against the 10-point win against the Hawks in 2012. We've got so many narratives. We've got Paddy Dangerfield. Can he win his first grand final? Can he lift the cup?
Well, he has won a few things on grand final day, but they've only been the sprints.
I was going to say, he's got the muscles to lift the cup. Hopefully his side ends up on the right side of this one. But certainly, Paddy Dangerfield grand final day, it's set up absolutely. And what about Joel Selwood as well? His 40th final, which is amazing.
Breaking records,
and
left, right and centre.
He's breaking Michael Tuck's record, so it's going to be massive for him. And I think he wins his 20th final if he gets up today, so it's massive.
Another one, Jeremy Cameron, 2019. Kicking the first goal and one of three goals for the Giants.
For another team as well. This is interesting.
Doesn't he like a celebration too? Big Jezza Cameron loves it.
Mate, honestly, boys, I'm excited. I can't wait to get into this. Sammy boy, what do we got?
So before we get to our next segment, there was one thing I had to include. It's been a great week. It's been a tough year for Blues fans, but
it certainly has. We're wearing blue in solidarity today for you. It's been a long year for you.
But there's one thing I wanted to put on. In honour of Patrick Cripps, got it done, got the Brownlow medal, one of the most deserving players and humble players in the AFL. So his massive moment this week was just a bit nice. 1 point, very, very close contest. One of the most crazy Brownlow counts I've seen for a while. But congratulations to him. And, well, we better get back to our big grand final dance.
I was going to say, Sammy, are you going to do a little pose like what Nat Fyfe did? We'll get a photo up in a moment of him. Are you going to take the shirt off and just lounge around and answer a few phone calls?
Oh my
Maybe,
God.
We'll never know. We'll see where the show goes. But
save the 6-pack for later. Come on.
12-pack.
12-pack.
Okay. Yes, so back to things. We're going to head now and look at some of the fine moments from the AFL featured on our Sports Desk show this year.
Michael is currently wearing my Carlton 2022 member scarf. Says up the baggers.
Up the baggers! Let's go Blues! This feels just so wrong in so many ways.
Skin peeling off?
It sort of is. I'm chafing real bad up around the neck.
So
don't want this to happen again.
Well, pretty much obliged to do it. You can't just be there for the good times. There's going to be bad times, and I think for all the other bad, there's a guy.
Michael's taking his hoodie off and he's got he's got a black and white t-shirt on.
I didn't realise I was wearing these colours. Honestly,
You know, I had a lot of respect for you, Michael, but that's bloody diminished very, very quickly.
Oh, God. You went there.
I did.
Because no one on that list deserves to wear the red and black. It's a big call, but I do not care. The Maggies got the job done by 1 point.
Just that little bit more, as James had promised about Carlton-Collingwood, because it was the biggest home and away game we had in round 23.
People went off on the radio this morning about it. I watched the last quarter back today twice because I was just wanting to unpack it.
Poetic about it being Jamie Young.
Yeah.
We were marching as one on the road to the Holy Grail.
Sort your stuff out,
Wow.
Essendon, because you're a bloody disgrace.
We're not happy. We're not happy.
Sorry that we had to go on like this.
Okay, oh, you know the Essendon fans in the studio.
Nunes, the arc review on the touch to
late
the
call.
goal. That thing's got more pixels than Pac-Man in the 80s. Like, let's be real. Like, it was ridiculous.
You gotta body some people. Come on.
Like you and the musicians.
I've been talking. No, it's fair. I've been talking big smack about the megahertz and me wanting to absolutely belt the Rock Dogs and whatnot.
We ran into millions and nobody got paid.
Woohoo! Great to be here, James. That was holiday. You right there? Been sucking some helium.
Yeah, you've been helium.
It's almost a factor of if you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah,
And
you gotta have a sense of humour.
You put up with so much garbage by this club.
Those big black birds, they were circling in the sky.
Free From Desire got a spin a couple of years ago with lots of clubs, but they have an interesting one. It's Jackie, that song.
Yes, it
That
is.
disco song from the 90s, I think it was.
And then they put that pie and they flip it upside down and put that on that plate, and there's your pie floater. Staple dish of South Australia.
Yum.
And that's about it for Essendon because they are just trash.
Well, that was some funny moments from the Sports Desk this year. Remember, you can catch us Fridays, 9 a.m, and of course, Monday afternoons from 5 p.m, I think it is, I should know by now, on SYN 90.7. You can get that FM in Melbourne or catch up on the podcast or stream online. But now we're going to get to our favourite grand final moments. Of course, grand finals are big. They're absolutely huge. So some of the moments stick in footy folklore for years to come by. Start off with yours, Michael.
Well, it probably doesn't get the plaudits it deserves because the margin was slightly blown out towards the end, and that can sometimes happen in grand finals when a team really does have the wind on their back and they are just absolutely streaming. But this was a great grand final because the fairy tale was building up to the whole week, and it was the Western Bulldogs. They had won, they had triumphed in that amazing preliminary final, which actually goes down as one of the greatest preliminary finals, I think, of our time, and has sparked a very heated rivalry between the Bulldogs and, of course, the GWS Giants. But the grand final moment for me was Brian Taylor's call of Tom Boyd's miraculous goal after tackling none other than Lance Buddy Franklin.
With a sizzling little low drop punt. Here's Buddy Franklin knocked away by Morris. Couldn't mark it. Naismith, Kennedy handball out to Buddy. Buddy tackled by Morris. Dropping the ball. Boyd took the advantage and played on from inside the centre square. Boyd's kicked the goal. Boyd's kicked the goal from inside the centre. Fuck! I can't believe that. Boyd has kicked the goal.
Oh, how good was that moment? Oh my God.
He's-
Boyd's kicked the goal! Boyd's kicked the goal from inside the centre! Fuck! We love it. We absolutely love it. And Brian, I mean, he hadn't called too many grand finals on Channel 7, and I mean, I think he was on Triple M that day, thank God.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. Can you imagine? That would have been a disaster if that was on main TV. But a great grand final, a lot of highlights. Tom Boyd was probably very stiff not to get the Norm Smith on the day, but Jason Johannesson, very worthy recipient, and one of my favourite grand finals. Bulldogs break that drought.
Jimmy.
Well, I feel like this is, in footy folklore, it's one of the most iconic commentary moments in our modern era, I feel like. 2005, we're going to go back to Sydney, West Coast, last roll of the dice for the Eagles.
So Leo Barry in the back pocket. Heads along the boundary line.
Oh, good mark by Cox. Cox throws it onto the left. One last roll of the dice for the Eagles! Leo Barry, you star! Bob Murray, Liam Cant. The longest premiership drought in football history is over. For the first time in 72 years, the Swans are champions of the AFL.
How insane. How insane. Leo Barry, you star. Taking the win for the Swannies, and that was just, broke the drought. Incredible.
I love it sometimes when maybe it's not necessarily a goal that wins the game. Like a game-saving mark, underrated.
Like Cox recycling into the forward 50, and then Leo Barry coming from absolutely nowhere. You couldn't even see him in the TV grab.
No, you couldn't.
And he just comes from nowhere, gets a clutch mark, probably hurts himself in it as well because he's gone down like a ton of bricks. And Siren's gone. Sydney are premiers. The rest is history.
And it's funny, Jimmy, watching that footage, I don't even think Leo Barry heard the siren. I think it was Tide Canelli who jumps over to him while Leo Barry still has the ball. And he's like, we've won. You know?
Well, I don't think anyone would have heard the siren either because the roar at the MCG, that was when it was being built, the new Olympic Stand was being built. So it wasn't even a full 110K capacity. Yeah. So you can imagine the roar now compared to then when they can't even hear the siren. If only we get something like that today.
And Sam, what about you? I mean, there were some great moments to pick from, but where are you going to for this?
I'm going back a couple of years ago and actually wasn't in the country for this one. I was in England in 2018. It's I will never ever book a holiday during this week ever again because you just don't. This is the best place to be in the world for this week.
And I was going to say, Sam, first weekend drinking a pot of tea while watching the grand final or a warm pint?
5:30 in the morning. So if you are watching the stream from England, it's very early morning, so it's dedication. But this one from 2018, Dom Sheed, really just stuck it up to the Pies. Really, it's a great moment.
We love this.
He plays on. Ball to Sheed's too long. Maynard can't get there. Sheed, did he play on? Did he take a step?
It's a clever shepherd from Rioli.
Sheed from the boundary. Needs to be inch perfect. He is. He's got the most impossible goal. Unbelievable, the most acute angle in footy.
And there we go. Sorry to Pies fans. It's such a glorious moment. Like, those shots are really hard to do. There's so much pressure. Those feral crowd yelling at you. Putting up with a lot of pressure.
Brayden Maynard in front of you going, it's a block, it's a block, it's a block. Oh, get stuffed, come on. It's a bare mark. But what about the play before that as well, Sam? One end of the ground to the other, taking on the game. They didn't have long left. I mean, absolutely courageous from the Eagles and one of the great modern day moments in grand final history.
Well, let's hope we get some crazy moments this afternoon. And now we're going to head back to the parade and some of the AFL live sites. What's it called? The Footy Festival.
The Footy Festival.
We went down, chat to a few punters down there, some good hard-bred Geelong fans and Sydney fans. And
I thought you were about to say a different kind of bread there, Sam. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't. But my word, aren't they passionate? Hello everyone and welcome to the MCG, the home of the grand final in 2022. No, it is not in Perth, it is in Melbourne. And of course the Sports Desk boys and I, we're down here for the Footy Festival hosted by Virgin Australia. It's great to see the fans out from all 18 clubs and boys. An amazing festival atmosphere we've got here. It's amazing.
I'm looking forward to it. It's the vibe's good, everyone's here. First time since 2019 that we've had one. Take a mark. Here we go.
Oh, how beautiful that! Look it! Oh! All right.
Alrighty guys, I'm here with Ross, the CEO of Big Ant Studios. We're here behind us in the little tent, giving us a sneak peek of the new AFL video game. Ross, how are you, mate?
Great. Good day to be out.
It's fantastic weekend as well with the AFL Grand Final. I think perfect time to give everyone a bit of a teaser of what's going on. Can you talk? I know you can't really talk to us too much about this. We've only seen Buddy and Danger kicking a few goals, but the animations and the spotty scans and everything look incredible. Can you just give us anything, some form of insight?
Well, I guess the first thing I'd say is we have absolutely scanned every single player. So every player of the AFL and the AFLW will be in the game, 100% scanned in 3D. Looking as you see behind you, to at least this quality, and we've got another 6 months or so of polish to go.
Do you think it'll get to a stage where it can be competitive and can become an e-sport in its?
We will do it. There's no doubt. Esports is a big part of what we do.
Yep.
So there's no doubt that AFL will be an esport. It's a matter of coming down to, getting the numbers that make it viable. But I think we can do that with this game.
All right, we're here with Jade Gresham from the St Kilda Football Club. Jade, great to see you at the Festival of Footy. How have you been enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's obviously a great day. It's an awesome week for the kids. They love it here, and nice turnout, which is good, and the kids are enjoying it, so that's the main thing.
That's fantastic, mate. Now, obviously, the big dance, your team would love to be there tomorrow, but hopefully in future seasons you will be. What is your tip for tomorrow, and who do you think is going to be getting the normie?
I think it's going to be a very close game. My tip's the Cats, and I think North's medal will go to Jeremy Cameron. That's my tip.
Avid Swans fans, well, look at it. We've got Jack, Michael and Miles.
I think the Swans are going to get up. It's going to be a close one, but I think Buddy's going to lead the front, and they're going to get through in a close one at the end.
I reckon the Swans are going to win, and I think it actually could be a bit of a landslide. I reckon it's 20 plus.
I think Geelong's going to win, but I've got these vibes that Sydney might do a Hawthorn.
I'm thinking the exact same. I think Sydney win 39.5 or more.
Have you got a multi on this here, Miles?
It's the football season. The football season. It's the time of the year that we love.
Well, definitely a lot of fun down at the Footy Festival. It was a great time. Still open for today, so if you're not at the game, the big screens and stuff, so get down quickly. Not got long, but try. But now we're going to get to the road to the grand final. It's been a big, massive run for both teams, Geelong and Sydney, of course. Geelong actually coming with a 15-game winning streak and 9 for Sydney. But we'll start off with Geelong, and we'll take a look at a couple of games first from the home and away season that were pretty significant. And I think we'll start off with round 10 with Geelong, 82-47, Geelong by 35 points. What do you think of that game?
Well, this was one of those games where Geelong pretty much were fighting the whole game to sort of keep a good lead, and they sort of had a buffer for pretty much the whole game. And then I think in the second half it was Port Adelaide that really came to life, and in that third term they kicked a barrage of goals. I think they may have kicked 8 goals in a row and really put Geelong on the back foot. But the way that they handled it, and particularly their big men like Tom Hawkins, they just absolutely stood up in the key moments. And again, just that class really shone through for Geelong.
Yeah, look, I think this was a real display of, the big boys and who's a real team this season. And I think even though it was round 10 and it was still halfway through the season, we really did see Geelong shine through there. I think that, when it comes to those dire situations and a team needs to step up and specific players in certain positions in the field need to step up, Geelong have got all of that. They can get the job done. Their pressure was immense in this game. They really took it up to Port Adelaide, 35 points. Even though it was a pretty average kicking display from them with 16 behinds, they did show incredible courage in this game. And then if we move on to that round 12 fixture against Geelong, that's against the Bulldogs, sorry. That's a perfect narrative. It's
10-10-70 to 12-11-83 was Geelong by 13 points. Michael, this game?
Yeah, this game was a cracker. I think it was Friday night footy, Marvel Stadium, a pretty cold day in Melbourne, which is pretty usual for that time of the year. But the Bulldogs, they had a pretty struggling patch leading up into this game, and they had a lot to play for. And so they really threw the kitchen sink at Geelong, a team which in the last couple of years they don't have a great record against. But in this game, they really matched it, particularly in the second half. And we talk about it, it's almost a similar narrative to the previous game where that third quarter, the Bulldogs just absolutely threw the kitchen sink and the washing machine at them. And it was just fantastic to see the Cats hold on. And again, those senior players just timing their run, absolutely cherry ripe. Zach Tui's, as you mentioned, Jimmy, they also played a really big part in this game. And for the Dogs, it was, again, just another tale of their season, just thereabouts, but just not quite getting the chocolates. And it was the Cats too, with Jimmy and Sam. Yeah.
Round 15, like everyone remembers this game. Massive game, of course, against Richmond. They won by 3 points. A few controversial moments in this one, 86 to 89.
Yeah, this was an amazing game. And again, probably proves that Twilight footy is seriously great spectacle at the MCG. And this game really had everything. And again, Geelong get out to a big lead and the Tigers just slowly reel them back in, and it got very, very close towards the end there. But it was the Cats through, I think it was it Jack Henry? Up there in the forward line, takes a big clunk, goes back, kicks the goal. A player who isn't usually cited in the forward line. It was a pretty special moment from him.
And round 17, before we get to their finals appearances, against the grand final winner from last year, Geelong and Melbourne, 28 points over the Demons, 91 to 63.
Yeah, massive. And Jimmy, this is a place where Geelong play a lot of their footy, obviously, Cardinia Park, but the Demons at the end of the previous season, to get the minor premiership, they had to beat Geelong in Geelong, coming from behind. They nearly did it as well, Melbourne, but Geelong just too classy again.
It's just this game again reeks class. I think that if there's one word to sum up Geelong's season this year, it's class. They're the best team in the league. They're the best team in the league for a reason. This game, I feel like this was Melbourne's do or die game. Round 17, 5 rounds to go. They weren't too sure where they were going to finish on the ladder. Geelong needed consistency in these last 5 to 6 rounds, and they got it. They played really well. All those big players stepped up, and I think the whole talk with the age and Geelong is dad's army and it's all everyone's too old and whatnot. You can have an old footy team, but best thing with old footy teams is experience.
And guys, I think one of the big things as well, Sam, in this season is Geelong had a completely different mindset coming into this season. They got brand new coaches in and they almost blew up their game plan in order to really regenerate and not just be relevant for the next 2 to 3 years, but for the next 6 to 7 years. Yeah. They've just got this happy knack of finding these great footballers from around the Geelong coastal area, and then they just top up with all this really high-end talent from guys in interstate clubs wanting to come. And honestly, the way that they were playing in the first 5 or 6 rounds, I think by the midway point of the season, I think they were about 5 and 6. But then after that St Kilda game in round 9 where they lost, they've been on this win streak ever since, and it's because they're playing differently. They're moving the ball quicker. It's a game plan that takes longer to adjust to, but ever since they've done that, they have been unstoppable, Sam.
Yeah, I think that's been a great point. Like switching that kind of game style to the one that they had was a bit more defensive, I think, last year.
It definitely was.
And it's made a massive difference, especially working well for the forwards. But we get onto the finals now, and wasn't this a classic qualifying final? The first week of end-of finals, it was Geelong over Collingwood, 78 to 72. That final goal, beautiful game. I mean, we were spoiled with the qualifying final we had before that, the Friday night, which we'll get to later.
Yes.
But that seemed to be, even though it was 70 points or so, each scores, it seemed to be a lot more locked-in, tight contest game, and it was all about the moments, and that was a great moment from Gary Rowan.
It was. This is a guy, by the way, that we talk about where we know how good his home and away form is, but when it comes to finals, he just doesn't seem to get it right. And this was a coming-of-age final for Gary Rowan. We know he's got the skill, we know he's got the athleticism, we know he's got the class, but actually doing it on the big stage in front of a feral crowd, as you mentioned, Sam, was a massive, massive effort from him personally. But then, you have all these contributors like Max Holmes, who I think we talk about the old Geelong game style, and you look at their game style and you go, it's too reliant on your age stars like your Paddy Dangerfields and your Joel Selwoods. Well, guys, those two men, they were on the bench to start, several of those quarters, and it just goes to show that they're now relying on that next crop of talent, and that really helped them in this final, James.
Something else that really, really intrigued me was the accuracy of kicking from both teams. Even though it was 11-12, 10-12, Both teams kicked incredibly well. There were rush behind, which kind of took the bound behind goal ratio to what it was. But I can tell you what, the week after, that was not anything other than a masterclass from the Catters.
We're going to move on to Sydney now and have a look at their run. And so we'll start off back in round 2, which was actually the last time they met Sydney and Geelong. They won by 30 points in the end, 17-5, 107 to 10-17-77. And there was a big significant moment from that game that we can't not say. Buddy's 1,000th goal. And James, you were there.
I was there.
You were actually there.
That was incredible. It was one of the most surreal moments of like experiencing footy. And obviously I wasn't right next to it when it happened. I was on the opposite side. So we saw goal 998 and 999. And I think they were better than 1,000 because the 99th goal curled back with the wind. And we're all looking like this, where is it going to go? And the crowd went absolutely mental. It was something where you got to see it to believe it.
And Jimmy, I'm glad he kicked the goal too, because there was already about
150
fans on the ground.
I'll tell you what, we were in the aisle waiting to run on, and then I see all these kids.
Imagine they hit the post, or there was a video review. So it went through, but it actually wasn't 1,000.
Mate, I was panicking.
Shout out to the Arc.
Shout out to the Arc. I was panicking. I was like, oh no, what if he misses this? These kids have run onto the field before he's even kicked the ball. And I'm like, oh, it's going to really end badly. He kicks it, and it's an absolute stampede. It was incredible.
So, look, it was early. Round 2. So, I mean, it's been a long time since those teams met. But as for a Sydney performance that day, pretty dominant. I know they would have got up for that whole 1,000th idea, so that would have definitely pushed them along. So great moment for them. That
was awesome.
Next to round 11, we jump all the way through, and this was a pretty significant game. Sydney versus Richmond, 106 to 100, 16-10, 106 to 15-10, 100. Take us through that one.
Yeah, look, the big thing that stands out to me from this game was Richmond were in red-hot form at the time and really starting to stake their claim as a team who could potentially create their own dynasty, or as some people call it, a dynasty, and potentially, get back to the big dance again with a really new, fresh group of talent that they've got there at the Tigerland. But the Swans, they were 33 points down in this game, guys, and they honestly looked like they were just going to run over the top. But the Swans, to their credit, again, a big Friday night crowd, lots of people there. I don't know if you were there, Jimmy, but
I wasn't, unfortunately.
But it was a great comeback, and it was a big game by Sydney, and it was a bit of controversy there towards the end, wasn't there as well, guys?
Yeah, there was. Another big game happened next round as well in Melbourne. Getting the dub, 12 points, 10 goals, 13, 73 to 9 goals, 7, 61 to Melbourne. This is a big game as well because defeating the Premiers is no easy feat at the MCG.
How many losses do you think Melbourne had at that point? Because I think they started off this season okay.
One loss, and it was the week before against Fremantle as well, where Fremantle in the second half absolutely came to life. So, to do it back-to-back, to lose like that, and for Sydney to get up at the MCG, I mean, it was just a massive statement game for them. It really, trumped their credentials, and it makes them now, it's a reason why they're in the grand final, because they can beat the big teams on the big stage.
Another big team they beat, Collingwood. This was a preliminary final rematch. Well, no. What do they call them? Previews.
Yes.
11 goals, 11. Yeah, literally. 11 goals, 11, 77 to 7 goals, 8. 50. This was the game that Collingwood were due to lose. I said it on the show. I said that they'll lose this game. I think everyone pretty much said they were going to lose this game. 27 points, the victors. I think they outclassed them. Collingwood were due for a loss. They were 11 games on the trot. And, if they weren't going to lose one now, they would have lost one in the finals. And obviously they did to this team. But, it was a great win by Sydney. And I think this really shaped their final series.
I think it was also a game as well, looking back at it, it was that game where you thought there was a lot of circulation going around about, is Buddy Franklin going to stay at the Swans? Will he go to Brisbane? Will he retire? And he kicks this goal right towards the end of that game, and he just looked into the crowd. He put his big, bulky arms, his fist up, and he said, I'm staying here for the long run. And it was just a great moment. It was that reaffirming that this guy really belongs at Sydney and he's not going to go anywhere. So it was a great moment. There was apparently a flu that went through Collingwood, not 100% sure. A lot of players didn't train that week. They can use as many excuses as they want, Sam, but reality is Swan's too good.
Yeah, Eddie Maguire's been quiet since he's made that statement. But the finals now, and we were at this one. The first grand final at the first final at all that we'd seen at the MCG in 2 years. And we were there, we went off a whim, we thought, let's go. And it was magnificent atmosphere. And of course, Sydney got it done, 14-7, 91 to 10-9, 69. And just, we really got to see, I think we knew Sydney were pretty good, but we weren't sure of the Sydney we were yet to see and have seen. Yeah. And that was pretty much the moment where I thought that they could go all the way this year. From that, there were definitely pressured moments, just towards the end, there was this massive frantic pressure from Melbourne, and they just managed to shut it all down and get it out under an anvil sitting over our head, a big demon scaring them, and they managed to deal with it, and they got the win pretty comfortably.
They did in the end. It was an incredible game because you think about Melbourne as a side that is built on pressure and ferocity and structure, and all of that pretty much went out the window because Sydney just matched them in every single department. They out-Melbourned Melbourne in a lot of ways, and their pressure was just absolutely strangling, everything that Melbourne tried to do in that game. And, the big matchup in this game was Lance Buddy Franklin up against Stephen May. Stephen May got all the votes in that game as one of the best players on the ground, but the reality was it was a team effort by the Swans, and they just absolutely went to town. And I think that pressure, that never say die attitude, attacking the ball with that ferocity, that's going to hold them in good stead, and it has.
Well, that meant that pressure continued the week after, the 2 weeks later as well. Getting that week off was really needed for them. Taking on the Pies at the SCG last weekend. God, this was a final for the ages. 1 point, 14-11-95 to 14-10-94. Boys, this set the grand final up perfectly.
So we'll definitely talk more about that amazing prelim final soon. But now we are going to look at the team lineups.
Geelong are on their way to another grand final. As the clock counts down, the siren rings out.
I think our supporters should be proud of the consistency of our players. I think they deserve any successes that come their way. They've been a privilege to coach. We go in great form. We've got good availability. I think our game's in really good shape. So as much as any time that I can remember, I feel like we've given ourselves every chance.
We've brought in new players into that mix. It's been a nice blend, but yeah, we still know what's ahead of us, and that's a strong Sydney side.
So Geelong now, let's take a look at them, and it was a massive preliminary final. Totally suffocated the Brisbane Lions. It finished 18-12, 120 to 7-7-49, 71-point victory in a prelim. Look, we didn't expect it, but Geelong just showed that they can come out, and the prelim finals aren't that big of a hoodoo as we've been talking about.
No, they're certainly not, Sam. 15th straight win for Geelong, and they were absolutely magnificent on the night. And I thought the tone was set early by none other than Paddy Dangerfield. He ran back with the flight. He didn't know what was coming in his direction, and the way he took that chest mark and the way he kicked that goal, he absolutely set the tone early and put Geelong fans at ease with just how he played. I thought it was magnificent from him. Mark Blitzarves, he's a really good, versatile player. He would plug all the holes, in the back line. He'd play as a ruck rover. There's nothing this man can't do. And of course, we all know about his running capacity coming from a steeple-chasing background. So I just thought the Cats got their mix right. They had all the right ingredients to win this game, and they did it in style, and it was pretty much all over at half-time. They could have probably put a bigger gap on Brisbane with a couple of inaccurate shots from Tom Hawkins, but they rectified it in the second half, Jimmy.
Yeah, the versatility of this squad is just ridiculous. Like you're saying, Blitzarves is one of those athletes. This archetype is so rare. You've got a guy who can play ruck, who can play back, go forward, and still has the aerobic capacity to run and doesn't stop. This really just showed, like I've said, class just sums this team up. It's so good the way that they play. Paddy Dangerfield's goal to open the whole game just really set the tone, and as soon as it happened, I was with one of my mates watching this and we're like, oh, here we go. Like, it was just one of those things like, oh no.
They were out to play. You could see it from the start. So Tom Hawkins mentioned, look, he was a bit inaccurate, but 4 goals in the end for him. Tyson Stengel got 3, and of course we mentioned Dangerfield, Gary Rowan and Graham Myers with 2 each. Disposals wise, 28 for Dangerfield, Duncan 26, Tui with 24, and Colin Jasny with 23. So dominant. That forward line, we've been talking about big forward lines. The classic, the implemented changes into the game this year has made it that classic footy. The big out, tall forwards. It's the classic footy that we love, and they've managed to do that really. One of the scariest forward lines in the AFL this year.
Oh, absolutely, Sam. And you talk about Tyson Stengel before, it's hard to believe, a delisted free agent. He's been at Adelaide, he's been at Richmond, and he's had a lot of personal struggles as well off the field, and he comes into the Geelong side this year. Eddie Betts comes to the club. He stays with Eddie Betts for a little while. These are the sort of the personal stories that we absolutely love in grand final week, but it's worth reflecting on because 3 goals from 10 disposals, and he was just absolutely magnificent. 49 goals for the season. He's crazy. A real barometer for Geelong, and he's going to be massive today.
I'm going to run you through something very, very quickly, which I found quite interesting. Inside 50s for both teams. So we had 59 for Geelong, 46 for Brisbane. Geelong's inside 50 efficiency was only 51% compared to the 37 that was Brisbane. Not too great despite the score. You'd think they would be a little bit more consistent, and their disposal efficiency for the game was at an all-time high of 76, 3% above their season average as well. So this game was great, but it showed its flaws. I think because the margin was so blown out of proportion, they kind of had that leeway where they could muck up a few things and they could, let things slip up. Hence the 51 inside 50 disposal efficiency. But yeah, this sets it up so well.
15-game winning streak. Can they continue it? Let's take a look at Sydney now.
Doesn't miss. They're ready. They are ready to go and win themselves a premiership, the Sydney Swans.
Heaney front and centre. Late one Swans. Florent with a stiff arm. Walking into trouble. That's got to be holding the ball. Listen to this. Somehow got away. Now Stewart's got a problem. Just as it was looking really dangerous. Blakey again. Great vision. The legend becomes immortal.
So Sydney, we saw an amazing preliminary final. Came down literally to the wire in fashion. A few Collingwood games ended that way this year. So 1 point in the end, 95 to 94, 14-11 to 14-10. I really don't know where to start with this grand final, but I will start with this interesting fact. History repeated itself at the SCG. The last time Sydney played a prelim final
Sam,
at the SCG.
do you have to say it? Do you have to say it?
God.
We're going to block our ears here, Jimmy.
In the 90s against SCG.
Oh,
in 1996.
Yeah. So. Look, we weren't born, thankfully, Jimmy and I, to remember
lucky.
it, but there's a lot of Essendon supporters out there that do, and it still hurts.
Sydney, massive 1 point victory. Tom Papley got 3 goals, Franklin with 2, and disposals. Callum Mills, 27, Luke Parker, 23, Chad Warner, 22. Massive. Take us through that game.
Yeah. The Swans Oh, they came out with fire, didn't they? They kicked the first 4 goals. They held the Pies scoreless for 22 minutes of that first quarter. And then the Pies just had this happy knack of just kicking goals in little bursts. And they actually were very accurate. I think they kicked the first 7 goals straight.
They did.
All of their goals were straight. But it was the Swans that just kept a very healthy lead of about 3 or 4 goal buffer. And then they got out to a 36-point lead at the 3-minute mark of that third quarter. And you just thought to yourself, the Swans by how much here, essentially. Justin McInerney cuts off an intercept in the centre of that forward 50, and he runs into an open goal and kicks it, and you just think, here you go. The Swans fairy tale begins, and they're into a grand final. But the Pies, we just know they've got this dogged attitude, this never say die attitude. And you just thought to yourself, at 3-quarter time, if there's only just a couple of goals in it, they can pin it back and they can make it very close. But we didn't honestly believe that they could do it again. And they really nearly did. I mean, Jimmy, take us through those frantic last couple of minutes where they just went bang, bang, bang and nearly got the final goal.
That's Collingwood for you. That's Collingwood this season. Really crazily, in that 14-goal fest for both sides, Sydney had 9 individual goal kickers who all kicked 1 goal apiece. And then obviously Papley with 3 goals, 2, Lance Franklin with 2 goals, 1. That last couple of minutes where it got flushed down to that massive mark by Lance Franklin, we're like, oh no, it's all over. Yeah. And then for some just some freak of nature, it got recycled back into the to Collingwood's forward 50, and the pressure from Sydney to just nap it down and just nip it in the bud, and nothing happened to it, and rushing that ball behind and see it over the line as the final siren blew, it was just wild. Collingwood did have inside 50s. They had 62 to 56 compared to Sydney. 70% disposal efficiency for Sydney, a lot better than Geelong in this game. Closer one as well. Inside 50s efficiency, though, they lacked in that, between getting 46% to Collingwood's 38. So, look, I feel like this game sets the tone for the grand final solely because it was the pressure act of Sydney up against the huge menace that's Collingwood, and they did fantastically. That last 2 minutes, that pressure, the way that they played their football, where they didn't stack the back line too much. They had their key players in there. They knew who was going to do the job. They got them there. They got the job done. They didn't oversaturate it. And I think if they oversaturated it, they could have lost that game.
And Sam, just quickly as well, I think Craig McRae's been voted the coach of the year, and rightfully so, from 17th on the ladder to 4th on the ladder. I mean, Collingwood have been one of the great stories of this season. As hard as it is for me to say as an Essendon supporter, they have been amazing, and we are envious, James, of their culture. But I think the big thing was Braden Maynard in that first quarter. He plays on Lance Buddy Franklin. He's grabbing the oil off Lance's arms. He's trying all these different, mental trickeries. But the reality was, it just was not a great matchup, and Buddy was all over him in that first half. So I think they lamented the fact that they put him on a bit too early on, and although he's an aggressive player, it probably wasn't the right matchup in retrospect. But in saying all of that, I thought Sam Reid, before he got injured, he was absolutely amazing. And then after that, as soon as Collingwood started taking on the game, they started believing, and that's when the game really turned. But credit to Sydney, they held on.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think in saying that, a really good warm-up for a grand final. You want to be playing games like before a grand final.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if this will come into Geelong's psyche. Yes, they played against a poor Brisbane team, but they could easily relax, which is something they can't do this game at all. This is going to be completely different to that. So, I mean, today, it comes down to now, and what do we feel about the game? Grand final, Geelong and Sydney. Well, I'm pretty glad it's ended this way. Really, the 2 best teams of the year. When we break it down like we have, they're the 2 teams that deserve to be here today. And there's an interesting stat too. I don't know if it's a kind of omen for Sydney, but 10 years ago, 10 grand finals ago was when they defeated Hawthorn after defeating Collingwood in a prelim.
Yes, Lewis Jetta. Yes, I remember that one.
And the Temper Trap also played at the grand final. So they are playing this one. That grand final entertainment's not too far away. Of course, we've got the Robbie Williams, Goanna, G-Flip, and of course, the good old Mike Brady
Where's Meatloaf on there? I don't think he's on this one.
was
2011 grand final. That was quite a while ago. The bat out of heaven there, or the bat out of hell, should I say? Yeah, a long way off, wasn't he? But no, I love the lineup, Sam. It's going to be an amazing day of entertainment, and then of course the main stage and the grand final footy records as well. Haven't they been brilliant? We've got the paint over this one. Of course, your friend who's at the ground, he'll get the proper golden edition of this if you go to the grand final. So get on down and grab yourself a footy record. We absolutely love these. They're a great feature of the grand final week, aren't they, boys?
Boys, it's come down to it. Predictions.
Yep.
Who's winning? Who's kicking the big goals? Who's your Norm Smith? Talk to me.
Okay. Sammy, kick us off, mate.
All right. I feel like I'm going to go against the kind of rain here. I feel like I was more the other team throughout the week.
Oh, here we go.
But I think just getting to a grand final sometime is just that extra leap. And it's a massive mix of young and new talent in this side, and they've been impressive all year. I know Geelong has been the standout, but
here he goes.
I will be taking out the Sydney Swans to win the flag today. They've just been an exciting young team, and I think it'd be massive if they upset Geelong. If they do, it'll be incredible. And as for maybe a margin, I reckon it's going to be close. I reckon it's only going to be maybe 5 points. It's going to be a nail-biter, and I'll take Isaac Heaney as my Norm Smith.
Oh, I like it, Sam. I like it a lot. Well, to be honest with you, you stole my tip.
Oh, really?
I am going to take the Swans. Do you mind if I...
Yes, take them.
Okay, here we go. I am going to take the Sydney Swans. I wore red for a reason, gentlemen, and I'm not mourning Essendon. No, I honestly do believe in the Sydney Swans side. I've seen them play live multiple times this year, and I just really believe, as you mentioned, Sam, that mix of players, old and new, and I just feel like the MCG, it's not a hoodoo place for them. They play genuinely good footy there. Yep. I remember them upsetting Richmond last year when Richmond were really in a strong vein of form, and you just thought to yourself, led by Chad Warner, this team's really got some exciting young talent. And, you know, when people talk about premiership windows, their window's open right now, considering I'm tipping them. And I just mentioned Chad Warner there. I think the Chad, as he's called in the footy world, I think he's going to stand up. I think he's going to win the Norm Smith. I think he's going to strut his stuff. He's going to show a little bit of arrogance, and he's going to win the Norm Smith. And the margin, I'm going to tip the Swans by 27 points. I think they're going to blow it out towards the end of this game. I know it's controversial, but Sam, I think the Swans are winning.
Okay, Jimmy.
Mate, I'm going against the grain in this sports desk little, I don't know what you'd call it, tipping affair. Geelong are winning this. I can't see them losing by a big margin. If they do, it would be, under a goal. I've been watching a few videos and reminiscing on grand finals of old and stuff like that. And there was a specific video where Jeremy Cameron was asked about what would he rather do, kick a goal after a siren to win the grand final or win a Brownlow? And he said he's going to kick a goal after the siren. I think he's kicking a goal after the siren. I think I've called it.
I love it.
I've just got a feeling.
Where's he kicking it from, Jimmy? Is he kicking a torp from 70?
No, you know what? I feel like it'd just be a pretty relaxed, pretty classy 45-degree angle, just slots it straight through, nice drop punt, wins the game.
Well, it's not going to be the Dom Sheed pocket, is it?
No, it won't be.
Playing in the grand final.
I think that, it's going to be a fantastic event regardless of who wins this. Geelong, for me, under a goal. Jeremy Cameron to kick the winner, and Joel Selwood to cap off a incredible, if he gets this 20 final wins, and his fourth grand final that he's won under the reign of Geelong. And it's going to be a great game. Selwood for me, under a goal. Geelong win this.
Wow.
It's interesting to think, for the modern era, the last 20 years, Sydney and Geelong, they've probably been the two teams that have been pretty dominant, maybe apart from Hawthorn, that have just been up there and not kind of let out. So to see them finally, as Sydney, being one of the, oldest clubs in the AFL, to see them come up against each other in a big dance at the G. It's going to be massive. The bounce is 2:30. The pre-game entertainment is not far away. And boys, it's been absolutely fun to preview it here. And make sure you keep up to date with all the Sports Desk on our social media of course, and catch our shows on the radio Friday 9 a.m. Sin 90.7. Don't worry, we've got the whole year to go with other sports as well.
It doesn't stop. It does not stop.
Does not stop.
And the Monday afternoons, of course, from 5 p.m. So, may the best team win, as they say. It's going to be absolutely massive. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much.
For all your news, reviews and previews this AFL season, listen to the Sports Desk, live Fridays 9 a.m. and Mondays 5 p.m. on SYN 90.7 FM and on syn.org.au.